I'm getting very, very worried about Jerry Jones.
Reminds me of a lot of our other tight end who's head coach up there at Detroit right now. Without a question, he can become a coach.
This has been one of the greatest Cowboys seasons I think I've ever seen. I mean, it really had everything you'd want. You had delusion.
All in. All in, all in. We're all in with these young guys coming up. We're all in with knowing that you have to go.
You had literal sabotage.
Are you in favor of curtains?
Yes, 1,000%.
Would you talk to Jerry about that?
I mean, y'all doing my job right now.
You even had some players inadvertently or accidentally stating that they wouldn't mind if the Cowboys moved on from their head coach.
Coaching, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants, but the guys, I kind of feel bad for this guys like Zach Martin.
And it's truly remarkable because I know I'm a Cowboy fan, but I also understand that this is a NFL YouTube channel where I try to cover all of the latest trending stories. And it seems like I'm making a video on this team at least once every 8 to 10 days, but it's because they keep setting the bar higher. How could we do dumber and dumber and dumber shit to make Mike go insane? And ladies and gentlemen, once again, Jerry Jones was able to do it. I was planning on taking some time off to celebrate my birthday, relax a little bit, but no, I couldn't, because Jerry Jones's decision for the next Cowboys head coach sounds so stupid and so insane that, well, I'm here making another video for you guys. So before we get to the content, we are less than 25,000 subscribers away from getting to 1 million subscribers. If you want to help us get there, make sure you sub and turn on our notifications. And now that we got all that out of the way, work! Tyreek Hill just needs 1 yard on Thanksgiving for you to make money on Prize Picks, and here's how to take advantage. First, sign up for Prize Picks and use my promo code Mikerophone to get an additional $50 when you make an entry of $5. Then pick Tyreek Hill to get 1 receiving yard and combine it with another square to get 3 extra money, or 2 squares to 5 extra money. I give away a lot of my picks for free on Instagram at The Flight Mike and on Snapchat Flight Mike Snap, and this past weekend we absolutely crushed it, hitting on 4 of our picks, and a lot of you tailed these picks on Instagram and Snapchat and made money as well. So hurry up and take advantage of this offer. It's only available until Thanksgiving Day. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I hate coming here and reliving all the stupid crap that the Cowboys have done over the past 7 months, but I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't talk about how we got here. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys looked like one of the most exciting and electric teams in all of football. They had a glaring weakness offensively, which is their rushing attack, which isn't nearly as bad as it is this year, but they had Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb leading the offense, and their entire identity was on defense. This team had some bona fide studs on that defensive line, from Dorrance Armstrong to Osa Odigizua to Dante Fowler and Micah Parsons. They had a former defensive player of the year in Stephon Gilmore. Trevon Diggs was out for the season, but Deron Bland stepped up and broke a single season interception record. All of this was captained by Dan Quinn, and the Cowboys steamrolled through everybody throughout the regular season. The Cowboys were the best home team in the NFL last year, but once they faced off against the Green Bay Packers, they got burnt out.
What happened and why your team isn't here?
I think the main thing is who's burned out, man.
My dad watches my YouTube videos, and honestly, Dad, I want to ask,
Why did you make me a Cowboy fan?
just kidding, love you, Dad. But the thing is, entering the offseason, the Cowboys had a lot of difficult decisions to make, and it's not like they could turn to an individual that has consistently made sound decisions for them in the past, because they have this guy who owns the team.
Fine time. We're option quarterbacking, and we're going on out toward the sideline, and we haven't handed it off. We haven't pitched it. We're trying to make our mind up what to do. Does that sound like Mahomes to you?
Jerry Jones chose to delude his entire fan base, saying that
All in. All in, all in. We're all in with these young guys coming up. We're all in with knowing that you have to go.
the thing is, this isn't the 1990s anymore. The most casual of NFL fans understand how the salary cap works. And the Cowboys had a lot of big players that they needed to pay, whether it was Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, or Micah Parsons next year. So obviously, some sacrifices were going to need to be made, but the Cowboys could save some additional capital if they got these deals done quickly. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, Cowboys and Jerry Jones, they don't have a good history of extending their players. So instead of signing Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb to contracts almost immediately before the season started, you could have easily signed Dak Prescott to Joe Burrow's deal, and you could have probably paid CeeDee Lamb what AJ Brown's getting paid currently, which would have freed up $10 million of cap space. They waited till the last possible moment after CeeDee Lamb held out throughout all of April and announced these contract extensions in August, paying CeeDee Lamb $34 million a year annually and making Dak Prescott the highest paid player in football. Now, this coupled with the fact that this team lost Dan Quinn, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Tyler Biotic, and Stephon Gilmore in free agency all resulted in the fact that fans knew that this team wasn't going to be a good team. The opportunity was there to potentially make some improvements. I mean, the number one glaring issue for the Cowboys each and every year was their run game. And look, a future Hall of Fame running back is available to sign for the Cowboys. Derrick Henry even said he wanted to play for the Cowboys.
Did Dallas pick up the phone? Were they involved in the Derrick Henry sweepstakes?
Dallas didn't even, not at all know what's going on over there, and but they weren't in contend. The Cowboys never called at all.
Wow, never even picked up the phone. Now, were they on your radar as you're going through the process, or did that surprise you? I'm stunned hearing that the Cowboys never even picked up the phone.
That's a great organization, and I mean, it's been a great opportunity, but I'm thankful that I ended up here in Baltimore, somewhere I wanted to be.
But alas, Jerry Jones didn't sign him for salary cap reasons.
Derrick Henry didn't fit because principally of managing the cap in anticipation of the players that we were going to sign weeks later, or anticipation of the players we're going to be signing in the future.
And this is where it gets really frustrating. I mean, I said this in my video on the New York Jets, and I'll say this in regards to each and every team. The key to success for having fans invested in your team isn't necessarily winning each and every game. It's making moves that fans can get behind. I mean, when we were discussing Joe Douglas in our last video, it's a deep dive on the dysfunction of the New York Jets and how Aaron Rodgers is pretty much done after this year. I'll leave a link to that in the end screen, but in that video, we talked about how Joe Douglas may not have hit on each and every single one of his decisions. And that's okay. You don't have to hit on each decision. As a matter of fact, Douglas only made two major mistakes. Drafting Zach Wilson with the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, which he probably should have taken Penei Sewell and just let Sam Darnold trot out for another year or two. And depending on who you ask, hiring Robert Saleh, which I don't think was a bad mistake because the Jets had one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. But all those things aside, this man's plan made a lot of sense. He didn't have the most perfect draft classes, but in 2022, he came out with Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, and Breece Hall, all in one draft. He had late round hits like Michael Carter II. In the Zach Wilson draft, he selected Elijah Vera Tucker, and when it seemed apparent that this team was a quarterback away from success, he traded for Aaron Rodgers. Now, did the plan work? Obviously not. It seems like ownership meddled too much, but if I'm a fan of the New York Jets, these are moves I can get behind. I also say the same thing about Joe Schoen. Yeah, did he fumble by not bringing back Saquon Barkley? Most definitely, but I don't think this would have been the difference between making the Giants a Super Bowl contender or even a playoff contender and them being as terrible as they are. Yeah, you could have probably traded Saquon Barkley if you were smart, and that's probably the best way to handle it. But do I blame him for selecting Evan Neal at the number 7 overall pick or Kayvon Thibodeau at the number 5 overall pick? Do I blame him for trading for Darren Waller and that not working out, or trading for Brian Burns and that not working out? I do blame him for Wink Martindale walking away and the Giants defense being a shell of their former selves, and I do blame him for drafting Deonte Banks, who doesn't look that good so far. But a lot of the decisions that Schoen has made at least seemed kind of competent. Not 100% always, but it's definitely a level up from Dave Gettleman in my opinion. And that's the problem I have with the Dallas Cowboys. I can't get behind their decisions recently. And I don't think I ever can get behind their decisions. I mean, they had a great opportunity to fire Mike McCarthy last year when it was very clear that he wasn't capable of coaching this team to a Super Bowl. The Cowboys have always had the same exact problem, be it in the Jason Garrett era or the Mike McCarthy era, and that's the fact that they've always had talented teams, but they've never had the coaching that could get them over the hump. They don't have a coach that understands analytics or situational football. And no, I'm not saying analytics like, oh, if you're down by a point, you should go for 2 when you score your first touchdown, and if you miss that touchdown, you have an opportunity to score a 2-point conversion later. I'm talking about having a coach that is smart enough to understand that punting at your own 30-yard line is a stupid idea. Brothers, he didn't do this in the fourth quarter down by a touchdown with like 3 minutes left to go in the game. He did this in the first quarter with 10 minutes left in the first. I can't make this up. Whose idea was this? Whose analytics say that this is a good idea? But it's not only that. Mike McCarthy has proven to me so many times that he's just such an incompetent coach when it comes to game management. I mean, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he decided to call this challenge, but in the last game alone versus the Houston Texans on national television, Mike McCarthy had the opportunity to kick a field goal when he was in the red zone and it was 4 down. Now, I would understand going for it in this instance if you still had Dak Prescott, but putting this type of pressure on Cooper Rush doesn't sound like a good idea. He opted to go for it, and the game remained a 2-possession game as opposed to a 1-possession game. He didn't run the football in short yardage situations. Maybe it's because he doesn't trust Zeke. But the thing is, these types of decisions have been adding up throughout Mike McCarthy's entire coaching tenure with the Cowboys. Throughout Mike McCarthy's tenure as the Cowboys head coach, they have been one of the most, if not the most, penalized team in all of football. And I got the receipts to prove it. Their 2021 finale versus the New York Giants. Daniel Jones drops back, fires a pass to Dante Pettis, who kind of wobbles the ball going down. This is in the beginning of the fourth quarter. It leads to 4 down. It sets up a field goal for the New York Giants. Now, the Giants would end up winning this game, and it wouldn't have made a difference because the Cowboys wouldn't have been able to make it to the playoffs anyway, but it just goes to show that this is something that should have been challenged, but Mike McCarthy didn't. And this is something he would continue to do. If you guys remember, in the beginning of the 2022 season, the Cowboys had to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles in a very intense divisional matchup. This is when Cooper Rush had to take the place of Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott had an injury. On 3rd and 9, Cooper Rush drops back, finds CeeDee Lamb, who fights for some extra yardage and clearly is able to get the first down. Now, the Cowboys get a really bad placement here, and they decide to opt for a hurry up instead of challenging this play. Cooper Rush gets to the line of scrimmage, resets. It's now 4th and inches instead of 1st and 10. Mike McCarthy isn't challenging at all whatsoever. Cooper Rush rolls out, looks, and it's a turnover on downs. How about this? Against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC wild card, in the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Cowboys are desperate. They run a fake punt. It works out wonderfully. Now, after the fake punt, he waited way too long to get his original starters into the game, and the result is a delay of game penalty. Look, we can go on and on and on about Mike McCarthy's poor decisions throughout his tenure as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. But at the end of the day, when you have a team that is as competitive and as talented as the Dallas Cowboys, you can't afford to be making these types of decisions. That's how you go from potential Super Bowl to first round exit to not even fighting for a playoff spot. I can say my feelings about the season is going something like this. You can't really blame us. I mean, we're making poor decisions, whether it's not signing Derrick Henry, trading way too much for Jonathan Mingo, who, by the way, did make his debut for the Dallas Cowboys against the Houston Texans. He was targeted 4 times, and he had 0 receptions for 0 yards. Easily the worst trade of the trade deadline when you compare it to the DeAndre Hopkins trade or the Amari Cooper trade in regards to what the Cowboys gave up for him. You have Micah Parsons throwing strays at his head coach.
You know, that's above my pay grade if Mike is coaching again next year. All coaching aside, coaching, you know, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. The guys I kind of feel bad for is guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out. because do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did.
But then walking back those strays because his words were taken out of context, which, by the way, Micah, I love you. You're easily our best player. This happens to you a lot. I don't know why you have a podcast. You always get yourself into trouble by doing this type of stuff. I love you. I love your talent. You definitely come off as a really likable guy, but man, this always happens to you. I mean, I'm just going to leave this alone. Dak Prescott is out for the season, so now fans are wondering what the future is going to look like. Given how the season's going so far and the fact that the Cowboys are likely trying to tank this year, fans are wondering what Mike McCarthy's future is going to look like. Now, Jerry Jones in his infinite glory mentioned that he's not going to fire Mike McCarthy, and the reason is insane. I mean, the way he says it just makes you scratch your head, because his rationale is, I've made a change early on a coach with Chan Gailey, and I've always regretted that, and I made a change during the season with Wade Phillips and regretted that, and that's the music I'm listening to. Now, Chan Gailey wasn't fired in the middle of the season, so I don't know what Jerry Jones is talking about here. The only time he ever fired a head coach in the middle of the season was Wade Phillips. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, in the 2010 season, Wade Phillips started the season with the Cowboys with a 1-7 record. He was fired in the middle of the season for Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett went 5-3. In that instance, I thought it was a good move. So I don't know what Jerry Jones is talking about here, but I do agree. I don't think there's much to gain by firing your head coach this early, which I guess is why Stephen A. Smith is comparing Jerry Jones to Joe Biden here.
I'm getting very, very worried about Jerry Jones, because the only thing that's worse than the team's play is his press conferences, or whatever you want to call it, where he says one thing after another after another. I find myself thinking about Joe Biden. I think Jerry was 1 month older than President Joe Biden.
Politics aside, I think it's hilarious that Stephen A. Smith works for Disney/ESPN, yet he's appearing on Fox News, always roasting the current president. But that aside, John Machota reports that when Cowboys owner Jerry Jones was asked about this on 105.3 The Fan, he said, I'm having huge support and huge input and help from everyone he mentioned in that call about stepping in. But I would say if he had asked me that question relative to the issue or the criticism that Joe Biden had about his ability to function, I wish he would follow me around every day and he would see I'm the busiest that I've ever been in my life. I'm not concerned about the ability to do the work, to do the job. I just made a quick 14-hour trip back and forth to New York yesterday for a league meeting. Look, I'm not saying that Jerry Jones isn't doing these things. I'm saying he's not doing these things well. We're talking about two different things here. You could be doing this. You could be making 14-hour trips. You could be doing a terrible job at making these 14-hour trips as well. Now, the reason I made this video is, there's some speculation about who the Cowboys' future coach is going to be. It just gets worse. I mean, last year, I had a lot of hopes when I was photoshopping Bill Belichick into Cowboys coaching gear. And man, I would have loved for that to be the case, but the Cowboys opted to keep Mike McCarthy. So then we moved on to just another bizarre scenario. What if Deion Sanders comes to the Cowboys and brings Shedeur Sanders along? After all, he'd be willing to take the Cowboys job if he was able to bring Shedeur. Let's forget the fact that Dak Prescott currently has a no trade clause and is the highest paid QB in the NFL. Wouldn't it be cool if you had Coach Prime on the sidelines, coaching his son for this dumpster fire of an organization? I mean, I don't even think Jerry cares about winning currently. Think about the ticket sales. Think about the marketability of your team. That's clearly an option that Jerry would like, but no, he's not looking at that either. As a matter of fact, what he said recently is so bizarre and so insane that I'm having trouble commentating about it, honestly. So Jerry went on 105.3 The Fan and discussed who his next potential pick for a head coach is. And, well, Cowboy fans, do you want to take a minute and guess who it is? I'll give you like 5 minutes to post in the comment section down below.
Reminds me a lot of our other tight end who's head coach up there at Detroit right now.
Oh, if you don't know who he's talking about here, he's talking about a Jason that you might know of. A Jason that you've heard of about, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Very sophisticated when it comes to understanding football and all the nuances. But more important than anything, he really does understand the physical and the mentality of being physical, that part of it. So without a question, he can become a coach.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in Jerry Jones's head, he's thinking,
Dan Campbell, tight end who played for Lions. Lions now good. So Jason Witten played tight end for Cowboys. We hire him. Cowboys now good.
Oh, dude. This team's aging me. Look at this. I have wrinkles now. I have bags over my eyes. I've been told that I look tired in my videos now, and this is why! You wonder why I can't put out as much content anymore? It's because I'm yelling so much, because this team is literally driving me insane. Let's talk about Dan Campbell for a minute, because I know Dan Campbell was very charismatic before he got the job. There are questions about whether or not he'd be a good enough coach for the job, but if you take a look at his credentials, I mean, he played in the NFL for 10 years. In 2003 to 2005, he played underneath Sean Payton and Bill Parcells for the Dallas Cowboys. He then went on and played with the Lions, then played under Sean Payton and the Saints, before he became a coaching intern with the Miami Dolphins in 2010, a tight ends coach from 2011 to 2015, an interim head coach in 2015, and then coached underneath Sean Payton from 2016 to 2020 as an assistant head coach and a tight end coach, meaning that this man has had considerable coaching experience and obviously some charisma. Now, with all due respect, I love Jason Witten. I loved watching him. I love what he did for the Cowboys. He also played with Dan Campbell from 2003 to 2005 with the Cowboys, but pretty much his head coaches were Bill Parcells, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, 1 year of Mike McCarthy, and 1 year of John Gruden. And then after that, he went to Liberty Christian and became a head coach for a high school team. And that's about it. With all due respect to Jason Witten, he's not necessarily the most charming individual, as evidenced by his tenure on Monday Night Football, but that's not how you determine if someone's going to be a good coach or not. What I'm trying to say is these two individuals are completely different, and for the love of God, please don't hire Jason Witten just because he used to be a great tight end for the Cowboys and is currently coaching high school football. I mean, I don't have to tell you this. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. You could tell a 10-year-old to play Madden for the first time and he'd know this is not a good decision. What are we doing here? Honestly, what are we doing here? There are fans on Twitter that create really intelligent Cowboys offseason plans. I mean, Martin Talks Cowboys. Look at his plan for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. It's brilliant. You restructure Dak, CD, Terrence Steele, which I don't know about restructuring Terrence Steele, honestly. Extend Micah Parsons, and then you come out with $109.7 million in cap space. With that, you go out and you sign James Conner. Stephon Diggs could potentially take a discount to play for the Cowboys, considering how his brother's there and how he's coming off of a season-ending injury. You get Will Hernandez to beef up the offensive line. You could sign Javon Kinlaw to approve a deal, and from then on, you re-sign everybody. You re-sign Osa Odighizuwa, DeMarcus Lawrence, Eric Hendricks, Jordan Lewis, Kevontae Turpin. For sure, re-sign Kevontae Turpin. I mean, how on earth Mike McCarthy has seen this in practice all season long and then decided for the first time he was going to dial up this play during the regular season's beyond me. But bring back all of these players. Go defense with your first 2 picks in the NFL draft. Draft a halfback with your 3rd round pick, a wide receiver in your 4th round pick, and then throw your darts at the dartboard. And then your team should look something like this. This is a fan account on Twitter. Martin Talks Cowboys. That makes sense. That's something I could get behind. He didn't mention anything about hiring Jason Witten as his head coach. This makes a lot of sense. And I think that's my big issue with the Cowboys. They don't do things that I could get behind currently. And this latest bit with Jason Witten as our freaking head coach, I just don't know. I'm out of words to say. This video's gone way too long. I'm really sorry. I know I've been making a lot of videos on this team. They're driving me insane. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about all this? We have another video on Aaron Rodgers' future and the end of Daniel Jones. I'll leave a link in the end screen. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.